Okay, we left off Nun Dalet and Aleph. Okay, we left off yesterday where Rav had explained the Mishnah according to Reb Meir. Mekadesh, person's Mekadesh with Hegdish, a woman. Bein b'mezid, bein b'shogeg, right? B'mezid, he says, b'mezid mukudeshes, b'shogeg einu mukudeshes. Right? If he does it deliberately, she's married, b'shogeg not. So the question is, what exactly is the Mishnah speaking about? So he explained yesterday, the Gemara says, if he takes something which was consecrated, he's unaware, and he gives it to the woman, she's mukudeshes. Because Rav says he's investigated every Mishnah. Left no stone unturned. There's no Mishnah that differentiates according to Rebbe between Izan and Shogeg. Just as a person, if you deliberately want to take something from Hegdish, the transition from consecrated status to ordinary status happens. This is true even on an inadvertent level. Even if the person is not aware he's taking Hegdish. So what does the Mishnah say? Differentiate between deliberate and inadvertent. It's about kosnas kuna. It's speaking where a person took the vestment of the Kohen, believing it's his own shirt, and he gives the woman in marriage. And that's the only situation she's Mukudeshes. Why? What is Mila? Mila is because you're benefiting from something that you're not permitted to benefit from. But since the kosnas kuna, the vestments, when they initially were consecrated, they were consecrated that if you benefit inadvertently, you're not in violation, because a Kohen, it is not possible for him to wear it in a context which is always within the context of a mitzvah, because he may put it on a little bit too early, or not take it off soon enough, the moment he finishes officiating. So if that's the case, every Kohen will always be in violation of Milah. So therefore, since within an inadvertent context, one is not moel, so if you take it mistakenly, believing it's your own shirt, you marry a woman, since in the context of shogeg, therefore that's not classified as Milah. This is how Rav explains Reb Meir in the Mishnah. But any other case of Milah, whether it's shogeg or mezid, deliberate or inadvertent, she's mukudeshes, because the transition takes place. The moment he takes it as his own, it becomes chulin, so when he marries the woman, he's marrying the woman with his own object. Okay? So the Gemara asks, Toshma kosnas or shebolu. You have the shirt of the Kohen, the vestment, it became worn, that it's not wearable any longer. Okay? Mo'elin then, div Reb Meir. Reb Meir says, you mo'el. So what is the inference of the Mishnah? Meaning, not only you mo'el if the shirt can be worn, but can. Even if it's worn. Meaning it's a rag. It can no longer be worn. So why does the Gemara understand it this way? My lab, afilu lo bolu. Which means the Mishnah is saying not only if it's worn, meaning it's a rag, but even if it's not. So we explained yesterday, there's a Mishnah in Milah, no, in Tmura, there's a Mishnah in Tmura that speaks about we have nisrofim and nikborim. There's certain items that have to be burnt, and certain items have to be buried. For instance, basar b'cholov. Person has milk and meat that was cooked together. You're not permitted to benefit from it. You're not permitted to benefit, correct? It's Yisrael, no. What are you supposed to do with it? You have to dispose of it. Why? Because if you leave that kind of item around, what may happen? The person may mistakenly eat it, may benefit from it. So it's what we call takola. It's a pitfall. So therefore it has to be put away. Are you permitted to burn basar b'cholov? To incinerate it? You're not permitted. You should not. Why? What's the reason? Because let's say you have chametz b'Pesach. You burned chametz. You find chametz on Pesach. What are you supposed to do with it when you find it on Pesach? You're supposed to burn it. What's the status of the ash? After you burn it, the ash, you're permitted to benefit from the ash. This is according to Rabbi Yehuda. Since the Torah says when the Torah says tashbisu sormi botechem, you should rid the chometz from your household, from your domain, whatever it is. It means burning. So the mitzvah is to burn the chometz. Once you've fulfilled the mitzvah of burning, the ash which remains becomes permitted. Because the mitzvah is to affect it in a specific way. For instance, noser, kochim. If you leave a korban over and it's reached its expiration time, Torah says you're in violation of a lav. What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to burn it. Are you permitted to benefit from the ash? The answer is yes. Because Torah says, Beish tisrofu, you fulfill the mitzvah of shreifa, since the mitzvah has been affected it, you're permitted to benefit from what's left, the ash. Torah never said to burn basar b'cholov. Torah says you're not permitted to benefit from it. So there's no mitzvah to affect it. There's a prohibition, not permitted benefit. So if you would burn basar b'cholov, what would people say? As you could benefit from the ash of chometz or noser or things that the Torah says have to be burnt, you may benefit from it. But people won't differentiate. Therefore, that's why you don't burn it. Therefore, they're called nikborim. You bury it. You dispose of it. But you don't for that reason. People confuse the two. Therefore, you have nisrofim and you have nikborim. If it's burnt, the ash. I'm talking about the ash. The ash. No. Before it's burnt, it's the same. Before. But once it's affected by the mitzvah, right? So it's called nasa mitzvaso. Once the mitzvah has been done, you're permitted to benefit from what? From what remains. Similar to the blood. Even there it's easier. The blood of the korban is easier to understand. Because there, the basis for the prohibition was the exclusivity that you designated for Hashem. So once that was used for that, it reverts back to the ordinary status. Chometz is chometz because it's chometz. Well, idolatry, the Torah goes out of its way to say, we have the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, that even after it's turned to ash, you're not permitted to benefit from it, even after it's destroyed, because there's a special. That would be possible. So even the ash would not be permitted, or the many things. Let's say the ash of the mizbeach. You have chumas hadeshen. The Torah says you should take the ash, put it on the side of the mizbeach. It says v'somo eitzel mizbeach. So because the Torah says even as ash, there's a mitzvah you must put it by the mizbeach. It retains the kedusha, even as ash. So although the mitzvah was performed, you burnt the korban on the mizbeach. So the ash should be, but since the Torah goes out of its way, v'somo eitzel mizbeach, even as ash, you must put it by the mizbeach. So you see, it still retains a degree of status that it has to be put along the mizbeach. Therefore, that's the exception. But something like noser, like chometz, that you burn, any of these things, once it's burnt, you're permitted to benefit from the ash. That's something else. That's because it becomes not next to the mizbeach, on the mizbeach, on the mizbeach. Chumas Hadesh, it says it would sink into, it would be absorbed into the ground. That would never. Now, if you remember when we learned Psachim a while ago, it's been a while, that there's a question which is asked by Rabbi Kiva Eger, and there's a Reb Chaim on this, Reb Chaim Brisker. Chaim, that there's a machlokes to Chachamim Rabbi Yehuda when it says Tashbisu Sormi B'Teichem, it's a positive commandment, is Eibir Chometz El Sreifo. When the Torah says Tashbisu, does it mean only specifically burning, or does it mean Hashbesos B'Chol Dover, any means of disposal? As it says, Zorah L'Ruach, whatever way you want to dispose of it, you can dispose of it. Chometz, specifically chometz. They argue, is it specifically burning or any means of disposal? Zor kaliyam, zor l'ruach. If you want to burn it, you can burn it also. Whatever you want to do with it, you can burn it. You can do. So Reb Kiva asks a question, which he leaves it unanswered. He asks, if the principle why you're permitted to benefit from chometz after it's burnt is because it's not some mitzvaso, so why, according to the Chachamim, when you burn it, we say, but according to the Chachamim, if you burn chometz, you're not permitted to benefit from the ash. You're not permitted. I mean, any means of disposal mean burning, scattering to the wind, throwing it into the ocean. Either, whatever means of disposal. So factually, if you burn it, did you fulfill the mitzvah tashbisu? You did. So why does the Gemara say in Tamura, when it says in the Mishnah that chometz is min an nisrofim, that you're permitted to benefit from the ash, is all going like Rabbi Yehuda? We should attribute the Mishnah even according to the Chachomim. Because factually, you fulfilled the mitzvah of what? Of disposing it. Tashbisu. We should say the principle Nasa Mitzvoso. That's Rabbi Kivega's question. The mitzvah is, if the principle why it's permitted afterwards, because the mitzvah has been expended, according to Chum, if you burn it, have you fulfilled the mitzvah of Tashbisu? Yes. So why does the Gemara say in Tamura, when the Mishnah says that you permit from the benefit is only going attributed to Rabbi Yehuda, not the Chachomim? No, not offense. Tashbisu. No, that's Bas B'cholov. Bas B'cholov. Bas B'cholov, there's no mitzvah to dispose of it. Chometz, even the Chum agreed, there's a mitzvah to dispose of it. So the question is it a limited type of disposal or any means of disposal? That's the argument by Chometz. Bas B'cholov, the Torah never says dispose of it. The Torah just says don't benefit from it. So that would be a rabbinic family. Here we're talking about a doraisa, but the Mishnah says you're permitted to benefit from the ash of chametz. You're permitted. The Mishnah says, and who do we attribute the Mishnah? It's an anonymous statement. That's Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda says there's a mitzvah to burn it. But the argument of Rabbi Yehuda Chacham is not in fence. It's how to interpret what the meaning of tashbisu means. Does the Torah limit the means of disposal, or any means of disposal is acceptable? Burning, in addition, many other levels of disposal. Scattering to the wind, throwing it to the ocean, whatever it may be. That's Reb Kivega's question. And he leaves it unanswered. Okay? So Reb Chaim Briskus answers it this way. Reb Chaim. So Reb Chaim says this, that according to Rabbi Yehuda, why is it limited to burning? Because he says, because we learn from Nosar. Just as Nosar, if you have a korban which is left beyond its period of time, the Torah says you must burn it. So what is the Torah saying? It's something which is addressed to the object. The object must be disposed of. That the Torah says it's not there's any means of disposal, so what is the focus? It's how the object is being disposed of. So the mitzvah affects the object. If the Torah says it's any means of disposal, just not to have it, the Torah says the mitzvah is not to have it. So how do you not have it? By burning it. But it's not the object, the mitzvah is not to affect the object. The mitzvah is to remove it from your domain. Yeah, following. If the mitzvah is to affect the object has been affected through a mitzvah. But if the Chachamim, they interpret Tashbizu means the Torah is not saying to affect the object. What's proof? Scatter it, just not have it. So the object hasn't been affected. So although you chose to burn the object, that's only how you removed it from your domain. As a result of that, that's what a mitzvah does not change the status of the object. But Rabbi Yehuda says no. The emphasis is not to have it. It's how to dispose of it, because the Torah is being very specific, burning, therefore the object has been affected. Therefore, the ash is permitted. Correct? Correct. Exactly. But it's interesting. There's a famous Rashi. There's a famous if you know that Rashi exists. There's a famous Rashi in Pesachim that Rashi says that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion of that it's Tashbisu is limited to Sreifa. That's only before Pesach. If you find chametz on Pesach, it's any means of disposal. Why? What's the reason? Because it's much more serious. Meaning, we get rid of it before the fourth hour, fourth and fifth hour. You're not on the Torah. You're not permitted to keep it beyond chatzos, beyond midday. So this is the way he explains it. I shouldn't say Pesach. Before chatzos, Rabbi Yehuda says it's burning. After chatzos, it's any means of disposal. So he says, so why? It's because before chatzos, you're not in violation of possessing chametz. So there, the mitzvah is to destroy the chametz. If you possess chametz after chatzos, you're in violation of possessing chametz. then it takes on a whole different concept. Now the Torah doesn't want you to have it. Therefore, even Rabbi Yehuda agrees it's any means of disposal. Up to the time period where you're not permitted to possess it, then we speak about specific, how does the Torah want you to dispose of it, of the chametz. But once you're in violation of possessing it, it's getting rid of it. Remove it from your domain. So it's not to affect the object any longer. So good. Are you correct? It's a question. It's a question. It's machlokas. It's a question I learned Rashi. Because if you hold it mitoch, according to Beis Hillel, because you're in violation of possessing it. There's a question because Rashi says in Psochim that in addition to burning, we do bittul, right? We nullify the chametz. So Rashi says that since possessing chametz, if you find chametz on Pesach, you're only in violation of, it's only rabbinic provision because you already did bittul, you nullified it, therefore you're covered with a vessel if you find it on Chol HaMoed. So they want to infer from Rashi, but if you did not do bittul, we're in violation at a Torah level, then we apply the principle bitoch, that since you have a benefit to destroy it, that you will not be in violation of possessing chametz, therefore you're permitted even to burn it on Chol HaMoed. That's because of muktzah. Muktzah.
No.
Why not?
Because that's chametz you allow. Well,
I'm not going. Let's not get complicated. We're not learning Psochim now. It's machlokes Rashi. Tosa says explicitly not. Tosa says explicitly not. The Gemara says if you find chametz on Yom Tif, first day Yom Tif, it says kofa ola esakli. You cover it with a vessel, right? To indicate that it's off limits to you. That mistakenly you should not eat the chametz. You cover it. So Rashi says on that brisa, kofa esakli. Since bitlo, therefore kofa esakli. So what does Rashi say? Because it was bitlo, because he did bitl. So the inference is if he didn't do bitl, then you'd be permitted even to burn it. Otherwise, he shouldn't introduce bit because he nullified it already. So from Rashi, it seems to say you say mitoch, even for the sake of mitzvah, you say mitoch. Whatever, it doesn't make a difference. No. It's not simple. Okay? See, Richie's horizons are expanding now. Now it's Psochim. Okay. We'll discuss it. Exactly. Okay. Came out of the box, out of the Sukkot. Now he's into Pesach. Okay. So the Gemara says over here, when it says Bolu, it doesn't, it seems to be, not only are you moel when the garment is intact, when it's functioning as a garment, even when it's a rag. Why? Because you may think, you would say nasa mitzvah, because the mitzvah has been expended, so you'd be permitted to benefit from the material. That the Bright says, no, you're not permitted. Smur says low. Smur says low balu dafka. It's only when it's low balu, you're not moel, as we said, because when it was consecrated, that since it's wearable, within the context of shogig, you're not moel. But where it's no longer wearable, right? So now it no longer has relevance to shogig, because what's it meant to be used for now? We said we use it for the wicks. They would use the material for the wicks of the menorah. Now you moel even b'shogig.
So that's the limit of Rebbe Meir.
This is how Rav explains Rameir.
No, but that's the limit. Where it's worn out, you're not entitled to that exemption, and Rebbe Meir's normal rule would be...
Therefore you'll be moel. You'll be moel. Yes. Because now shogig has no relevance to any longer. If it's a functioning garment...
So if it's moel, if it's worn out clothes, that means the woman
is married.
It's like hegdish.
It's a regular case of hegdish. Shogig hegdish. So Tos over here is a question. Interesting question. Now, what's the halacha if you have a kli shoris? You have a ministering vessel, right? The vessel that you receive the blood, and a person goes and cooks his soup in that pot. he's a moel. No question. It's a consecrated vessel. After you benefit, is it yotze l'chulin? Does the conversion go from hegdish to chulin when you benefit from that? Or if you take that vessel and you give it to a woman for kiddushin, does it lose its consecrated status?
If you didn't know it was
B'shogeg, b'mezid, according to anybody.
that's how the Megillah process is. When you know it goes.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe yes, maybe no. Until now, we've been speaking about koche berek habayis. What about koche kedushas aguf? If you take a korban, take an animal and you ride the animal, an ola, does the ola lose its status? Or you choose to steal an ola, right? You want to take the animal as your own. Does it lose its status as an ola? No, it retains its kedusha, its consecrated status. Until now, all we've been speaking of is by berek habayis. Consecration where it becomes the acid of hegdish. Korban is called kedushas aguf. It's meant to be used on the mizbeach. When I consecrate a table, a vessel, or whatever, or anything else, it was the acid of an ordinary person. Now the acid was transferred into the domain of hegdish. What about what is the vestment? The vestment's klisharis. That's like a ministering vessel. It's not kedushas medical. It's not an acid. It's much more than acid. It's part of the functioning of the Beis Hamikdash. The Kohen cannot officiate unless he has the vestment. So that's the asset. That's called kedushas aguf. That's like the korban. That's like the klisharis. That's Tosafos' question. How could the Gemara say over here that the only reason why, if you would, according to Rameh b'mezid mekudeshes, if he would take the garment knowing it's a vestment and marry the woman, she's married. Because that intent to take it out of the domain of hegdish causes the transition. But it's only shoging now. What do you mean? It's klisharis. Klisharis, as much as you want to take it out of the domain of hegdish, it's unaffected. You benefit, you're in violation. But in terms of affecting it to cause it to become chulin, it does not become chulin. So why over here does the Gemara is saying by regarding the vestment, which is no different than the ministering vessel, or the korban, when he has in mind to marry the woman, knowing it's a vestment, she's married because it loses its status of kedusha. That's the Tomer and Kate. Hey, come Rabbi Yehuda. The b'shogeg kiddush v'gam b'mezar libed Reb Meir harei lo nischalu. Do klisharis saying do klisharis, right? Uklisharis. Yeah. Amrina di Yishmol achamoel ben yotze l'chulin. Regarding klisharis, Ruvain takes it and benefits from it, and now Shimon takes it after Ruvain. When Shimon takes it after Ruvain benefited from it, he's also in violation of benefiting from hegdish. It does, which means that's an indication. It doesn't lose its status of hegdish. The Shlomar, so Tosafos says dochik. What is the case of now? The Gemara says in Psochim. Now, originally, when we had the Mishkan, how did the Mishkan take on the status of kedusha? It says Moshe took anointing oil. He anointed every aspect of the Mishkan, every vessel, the vestments, everything was anointed with the anointing oil. So it was, even though it was consecrated, it was verbally consecrated. But verbal consecration only brings it to one level. To take it to a higher level, you needed the anointing oil. So the Gemara says, initially, it was what? It was mishichosan mekachosan. The anointing brought about that level of kedusha. But afterwards, let's say a vessel was lost and had to be replaced. It was no longer anointing. It was what? It was the usage of the vessel brought about the kedusha. Okay? So, let's say you consecrate vestments, and the vestment wasn't yet used. Wasn't yet used. What is its status? It's the acid of hegdish. If a Kohen wears that, and he officiates with that vestment, that's already the usage, that brings it at a higher level. Here we speak of the vestment, it's pre-worn. It hasn't yet been worn by the Kohen in the context of service. No, it doesn't. Stay. Wait. La'avoda does ein kedushas klisharis leim elo kedushas berek habayis kedom perkam de Sanhedrin avodosim l'chantchoson. The avoda initiates it. What brings about the advanced level of kedusha? It's the avodah, it's the officiating. Avodos b'chad choson. So here when we speak that he used the vestment of Hegdish, it's before it was used.
The whole concept of men are not treated like angels because they will use their clothes in certain ways. So aren't we speaking about that they're already wearing them as a service in the pacemaker?
No. It was consecrated initially. Let's say you take an ordinary garment, which is identical to the vestments, and was never and the Kohen would wear it and officiate in those vestments. Is the avodah valid? It's not valid, right? Because those garments he wore were initially not consecrated even as Bedek Abayis. If something's Bedek Abayis, it can be brought to a higher level.
So we're talking about before
This is before.
the clothes that the Kohen
It was consecrated as Bedek Abayis.
before he used it for the avodah.
Exactly. That's what Tosas answers. Because it's avodosim b'chad choson. It's the officiating brings it to a higher level.
Then the whole thing about we're not seeing malach and shores, that's why. That only applies once you wear it. Once you put it on.
No, but again. It can only be if wait, let me explain it. If you didn't consecrate it whatsoever, and he would officiate in the garments, are the garments affected by his officiating them? The answer is no, right? Because it was never consecrated initially. Now you consecrate it with a limitation. It can only be brought to a higher level within the context of that limitation. You following? It was consecrated for Bedek Abayis in a context, even if it's not used within the context of Avodah. Because the Torah is, because human beings are not angels. So to what level could it be brought in terms of its context? Only if it's deliberate. But if it's shogeg, you're not moil.
So after avodah,
Because it's only within the context of its initial consecration.
so once he does the avodah with the big woman, and then he takes that clothes and marries a woman with it,
Ain't it Kedushes?
because it's,
Because it doesn't lose its kedusha. Of course, it's a klisharis.
and if he did it before he
Before,
did the avodah,
then she's mukudeshes.
so therefore
B'mezid, but not b'shogeg.
it makes it not to show that.
Correct.
Right.
That's what Tosas is answering. Okay? What do you mean? Every ministering vessel, right? They would receive blood in it, right? Until the vessel actually wore out, they could use it for years. Definitely. That's a klisharis. Wait a second. Wait. No. That's a question now. If it's a worn tunic, that means it was worn.
It was worn for the avodah.
Yes, he officiated.
Yeah.
So what's the answer? Good question.
Yeah.
The answer is, again, why do we say yesh milah chamila? Because it still functions within the capacity of klisharis. Once it becomes rag, it's no longer klisharis. As long as it could function as a klisharis, it retains its kedusha of klisharis. That's like a rag. Not you can't use no, you have to redeem it. Has to be redeemed.
Come out of the warrant. Come out of the
Right, so therefore you can actually rag. See, it's interesting. There's a tosis in Hashoel, but Mitzia says that if a person has an axe that's consecrated, and he goes and takes the axe and lends it out to a third party, right? He believes it's his axe, and I lend it to another person. It says every person who he lends the axe to is moil. And the axe, David, I own an axe, and I consecrate an axe. I mistakenly take the consecrated axe and lend it out as if it would be mine. So it says, as many people as you lend that axe to, every person's moil. So Tosas asks, but if you gave it as your own, the conversion in place, Tosas that makes a differentiation. If you take the axe and you gift it to a third party, so the intent was to take the axe, to remove it from your domain, to bring it to another person's domain. But when you lend something, your intent is not to take it out of your domain. It's only that the person should be permitted to use it. So there it would be determined by benefit. So the person who actually uses it, he benefits, he's moil, because he's benefiting something that's consecrated. So if I take that axe and want to gift it to a third party to use it as to actually remove it from my domain as if it would be mine, then you've taken it out of the domain of Hegdish. But over there, the case is he lends the axe. Lending, even within the context of Berek Abayis, it retains its Kedusha, and multiple people will be in violation of benefiting from Hegdish. That's those. No.
Not lending, it's giving. Rebbe Meir basically
But
says
that would depend on Rabbi Yochanan and Rav.
Right.
According to Rabbi Yochanan, you would not be moel. To be continued.